additional revenue.
The property tax doesn't generate nearly what the sales tax does, which is why the sales tax, it potentially became an issue, was more concerning. This is an issue we'll have to deal with moving forward, but is not nearly as mission critical as it would have been if they were taking chunks of the sales tax.
Okay, so I'm gonna make a motion to keep the levy at .299 for this coming year.
And a motion, is there a second?
Do we need to
Do we
say
need to
that that
specify that the
Yeah.
additional funds go into that?
Okay, yeah, that's.
Well, that was what we were gonna say at the postcard meeting.
No, but I'm gonna I'll adjust
The
the
budget.
budget and show that in
As a
there.
line.
Right.
And then when you guys have your public hearing, but for the adoption and for the public notice, I'm gonna set the levy the same. We're gonna hit the threshold like we did last year. And then you'll see a line item that is specific to this number. And if you guys wanna say, let's round it up at 140 or whatever it is. But we're also gonna have to do a heck of a lot of promotion to spend that amount of money. Like, we're really got to get a lot of buy-in, so we're gonna need help, I'm
We
telling you
can do
now.
that.
But it's a
Megan
program
has
like
an area.
anything else, it's just about showing progress, and then we can do the next year, and until you're satisfied with the outcome, but you'll see the proposal eventually that shows the priorities. I think, you have great identified areas, there's some ADA areas, and there's also, I assume schools would be, well, especially the elementary school, cause you have a lot of kids walking in particular, being able to, access sidewalks.
So we have a motion and a second to propose leaving the levy the same.
Who's the second?
Who's the second?
There's already a
No,
second.
there is no second.
I'd second.
Thank you. Don't leave me hanging.
Greg almost left you off the
Well,
hook
that's
with a
what I was
mysterious second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we register your votes. Please display the votes.
Voting in favor, Wolken, Kaler, Tinius, Coltman, Miller, Streisand, Morgan, 7-0.
So I have 4 things on my list. We covered one of the other 2, which is the airport authority. The question being is, again, it's different from ours. We also left our levy alone now. They left their levy alone. Would you like to have any additional conversations or discussions with them before we call it good on theirs?
I guess I didn't get a sense that there was any concerns that we needed to talk through.
Are they planning any projects or anything that changes other than the hangar project? Are they making any changes that would initiate additional costs for them?
I
Facing
don't
additional
think
costs?
significant additional costs.
Okay.
So, as I broke out in the email what the additional ask was,
Yeah.
because they kinda had some
Yeah.
debt roll-offs, if you look at it if you don't look at it closely, you don't notice, and you think they're asking for like 70,000 or 80,000 more bucks. But I think one of the questions that I've heard come up is, are we being comparable in regards to hangar rates and who's utilizing those hangars, and is there a way to stair-step increase revenues to help more offset the cost rather than the taxpayer? Because they do have a general form of revenue rolling right in, other than property tax. And so,
Which
Or
would be
is it people that live in the county?
what?
Is it people that live in the county that are running these hangars? Like what kind of tiers are there? What is the money spent on? How much?
So,
And that's the kind of questions that go beyond just the budget
Yeah.
analysis. And that's what kind of what Greg's asking is there more information that you want now, because we are gonna run out of time here at some point
Yeah.
to track that down for you. But yeah, I mean, those, as far as the hangars go, those are probably 2 of the bigger questions. One is who's utilizing the hangars, and then also are the hangar rates comparable? My understanding was at one time when they did their did a big expansion out there, I believe I was told that, in Lincoln, they had basically, that they had needed the space and they closed some hangars or they got rid of some hangars. And I know there were some people who were utilizing those hangars, needed a place to, and that was, I think, some of that. But I don't know the numbers, I don't wanna speculate what that proportion is. But it's a fair question. are we subsidizing, hangar rentals for, you know, out of town, out of county, users? When does that matter?
Well, we had an analogous, conversation with, like the cattle facility in Parks and Rec meetings for baseball teams. Say Lincoln team, like a Lincoln Spirit League team or whatever would come out to practice baseball in a Seward facility, are they getting charged more? That was a similar discussion. And I think we are. I think Adam and Buck were charging more for.
And we've done it, the library has, you know, I think they charge for is it out of town or out of county? Out
I
of
think it's
town.
out of town.
It's out of town.
So that's not an unheard of, arrangement, it's just figuring out what makes sense. And what if you're concerned, if that's a concern or not, yeah,
Can I comment?
sure.
We addressed this in our board meeting today. And having been on the board for 4 years, this was the first time that we had called back the other entities that have tax levying authority and basically said, tell us why. And we went through a pretty lengthy process today. It ate up a good portion of our meeting, just talking about the whys when it comes to your ask. And you may wanna consider that if you haven't had these people here in front of you recently. Again, just to make the ask, why? Just a thought.
We haven't had, in my 7 years, we've never had the airport authority come in. So we don't have our senior member. Mayor, do you remember if they ever came in under your watch for their levy authority?
I've never seen a meeting.
I don't remember.
So I did brief them so they knew that the conversation, I talked to Eric Helge and some others and said, hey, with all the impetus on property taxes and what's going on at the legislature, you're not free from this anymore. So be prepared that this discussion may take place or requests may come in to lower your levy request. And we may call you up to have a discussion. So it's really that, but you want to be educated on where you're coming from or have them at least give a justification for how things are going out there. But we are going to also run out of time. I mean, we've got 2 more meetings after this if we don't schedule a special one, which we can. I mean, we could wait till the last week and do an extra one at the end.
And part of it may just be a philosophical discussion of what is the purpose of the airport, who's utilizing it. Is it something that when it was first contemplated that it was for, you know, crop dusters or other, I don't know. I've never actually flown out of there, so I don't know like who's utilizing it.
You can see in your budget, most of the names are on there, and so a lot of those are local names. There's enough loopies around that you could throw a rock in any direction, so who knows where they are. But there are some local names, and some people I'm familiar with that are locals, and then there are other ones I'm like, I don't know.
Right, because the property tax ask is city property tax, not county property tax or anything. It's just specific to the city. And so I think since I've been on, they've never come in and justification on why the ask. It has always been the max that it's been set to, and every year it comes in the same way.
They raised it one year because we lowered ours to offset it, so the total number did not change. But there was 1 year where their increase, they had a slight increase and we had a slight decrease. No.
No, it's before I was here.
No, this would have, now I gotta put my thinking cap on.
I remember what I thought it was.
I wanna say it would have been, see, we did the 12, I wanna say probably around 14 or 15 maybe, but I'm not sure on that, don't quote me on that. Cause that was one of the 3 times we've lowered it since I've been mayor was, the first one was in 2012, 2013, we had LB 40 vote, and that was extra half cent, and that, we lowered it down significantly, and there was, I wanna say in the next few years after that, there was, this happened, so, we lowered it. Not a lot, but it lowered it enough to offset their increase. Are you looking for it, Carl?
I'm just
Doing a lot of clicking.
see what the legislature, because I'm pretty sure it's capped at 0.35 in the legislature, but I'm not 100% sure on it. So I mean, they're at the max ask.
So maybe that's how they picked that number that year.
Right. That,
You just went to the max.
and so, but the thing is it's similar to we, they have revenue stream, are they doing it comparable to other places or just heavily discounted, especially to, if there are primarily people outside of the city utilizing those hangars?
Also the question, and I know we had a discussion about this, are they even at market rate?
Right.
Because there's not a lot of vacancy, it's basically none. Thus, they're building even more of them, over and over and over. As soon as one's paid off, we just paid one off, they're building another one. And so the question is, what is kind of the teetering point for that? And we ask that all the time about our golf fees and other things, it's like, how much more can we raise fees to generate more revenue but not decrease membership? Because once you go over the cliff, it's diminishing returns, so you kinda have to have that nice price point. I'm assuming that rents and hangar leases are the same, so, having that adult discussion to offset the burden to the taxpayer, if there's a market that will carry it, and there's a need and a want, and it's not exorbitant in the marketplace compared to other places, that's where you probably should be potentially. But that's a policy discussion this body may need to have with their policymakers, or at least some representation of them, so. How would you like me to move forward? Reach out to them and schedule them to come to the next one, start gathering questions to prep. I don't wanna blindside them, I think that's
Yeah.
unfair.
I think we need to have that discussion, and like Daryl said, find out the why.
Okay.
Why are you there, and is there other things that we can do to support this in a way that makes it more feasible for everyone that doesn't use it?
I'll request if they have any market analysis data, 'cause it sounds like maybe they've done that, and see what that looks like. I would say I'd reached out to a few administrators. Some cities have taken over their airports. One of the reasons is they don't have debt anymore, and then they get ruled up, like Fremont, Beatrice, they run their airports as a city department. I reached out to Beatrice, and they said they're having signed leases put in place, pretty comparable, maybe a little bit above ours on hangar rates, and then they have an adder built into every lease, 1.5% at a minimum. Every single year, rent's going up 1.5%, just so something's tearing it up. And so, having some of those discussions and how they think, because the hard part is too, is when you wait 10 years and then you increase hangar rates $500 a year, that's a huge jump, that's 30% potentially, 50%. Versus if you make it gradual, it's more consumable in pieces, but that's a philosophy thing that they can discuss in their market, but. Would we wanna request them to come to the next meeting? And,
Probably just gonna have a dialogue, I
Yep.
don't think we've done that in the time I've been here.
the other option is we could have a group go meet with them. If we don't wanna just call them the table, I'm just trying to think of different options that you'd feel comfortable with, so. But if you're okay having them come, we'll have them come, we haven't had them here, it'd be nice to see faces, and I think it'd be, good for you guys to see the Whistlers, cause they'll come, I guarantee, as managers, they're the ones seeing in day in, day out, what's going on out there. They're great managers, I love working with them, but they do the day in, day out, and then probably you'll have a few members of the board, airport authority, probably don't want all of them, because that's a public meeting then. Okay? Alright, I'll reach out to them and give them a little heads up. The last one is, there's an item that was not in your draft memo, and that draft memo, again, we haven't really adjusted anything, but it just wasn't in there, and so I worked with the mayor on this one, it's kind of in the buildup, it didn't get caught. With the wellness center coming online next year, and we put in the, I think I put in the partial amount in there. It was in the budget that you received last time, it's also in the current ones in this packet, it's just, I didn't say anything about it because we're covering such big topics. We've always had this line item for wellness in each and every department. This was always designed as the city's wellness program for our employees. It was not utilized when I was here, but it was always there. And so it's kind of rolling around the back of my head. When the wellness center became an option for us and we had facilities that people could take advantage of in multiple ways, a proposal was put together and discussed to provide a single membership, so not a family membership, a single membership for all full-time employees receiving benefits. The reason we selected those is those are the ones that we're paying healthcare costs for. And so a wellness incentive would provide, hopefully by them utilizing it, they would then hopefully see with health and exercise, potential decrease in our overall healthcare costs moving forward. They're not getting as sick, they're staying in better health, continuously through employment. There's a benefit to that. This, for the budget, is just a shift. We're just taking funds and kind of moving them around, and they ultimately end up in the general fund as a revenue for the wellness center. But some of that would come out of utility funds for those employees, the rest of it's just a shift around within the general fund. There is no loss, there's no decrease in money within the city. We will report it as a taxable benefit most likely for the employee. So they'll report that I got an additional benefit that has this value. We'll work that out with our auditors and our budget people to make sure we do that right for tax purposes. But we felt like this was an important or appropriate and important incentive, especially when we're not going into an abundance on salaries. As we've noted, we're doing a 3% COLA. And so, and if they want to, we'll probably design it so it'll be an audit. Well, it doesn't cost you anything, you're not paying for it. They would be able to auto deduct the difference for like a family membership. So if they got a family membership, we could have them pay the difference between what we're already providing and that family membership. The mayor did ask me to contact our health insurance provider. We have Blue Cross Blue Shield through Jones Group to see if there would be any benefit to the city in regards to maybe a repayment for the city by offering this, or for those that utilized it or anything else. Ultimately, there is not. There is some programs, but they tend to be the more invasive ones where you have to come in and do blood draws and cholesterol tests and all kinds of other technical elements, and with a modicum of return that we've looked at in the past and are just not available. Rather than like, hey, if you offer this, we would reimburse you 20% of your costs. So of the $45 we're paying a month for an individual, they pay 20% of that back to us. But they do not offer that. But the mayor wanted me to ask that, so I did work with Shane Bach to see what was available. There's nothing, but I still think long-term we would see a benefit in our health insurance premiums by utilizing this, so.
Not to mention the goodwill.
Yes, that was in your original budget. It's not an amendment or anything different from the original offering that was there, but it was just unexplained. And so that was what that wellness line item that hasn't been utilized in the past is for, so. Any questions on that one or concerns?
I think it's a great benefit.
I like the idea.
So. All right, that takes care of, that was the last. Is there any other budget items that you've had or have come up or that you've noted?
Can I ask about not just general, but wastewater?
Wastewater has the recommended 15% increase.
Right, the only thing I was asking was, last year was also 15%, and how many years do we think in a row it'll be 15%?
I think we'll probably have one more significant one if we do not see significant cash infusions into our project to try and get us to a level that's gonna be
So
close.
we're talking about 3 years, 15% a year.
Right now.
Okay,
This would be a fourth year if we do it again next year.
okay, this is the third year.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm with you.
We have some finalized rate study information that we're gonna go over from SEH to take a look at, and make sure we're gonna get there, but, I think our predominant goal and focus still needs to be working with the state legislature. They passed legislation again this year that gave distinctive money to very specific cities in very funny ways. Not funny, these are great projects, they're needed. I think the legislature recognizes that, and by us bringing back our bill through Senator Hughes potentially, if she's willing to introduce it, being in the front of that now versus behind it at the beginning of a double session, that hopefully we can leverage those funds. Grand Island, me and Jonathan worked on it, we got all excited about a potential TIF related project, or a grant fund through DED, they announced it, they said everything. Me and Jonathan are sitting down in our weekly meeting going through it, and then we'll read through the details, and then we're like, there's only one community that can apply for this.
The way it's written.
Yep, and they've done this numerous times in the past recently. And so we need to be that community. That was the intent of our RLB last year. We need to be out in front of it and gearing up right now to try and do that. Because other than the $1 million or $2 million that Congressman Flood's gonna try and acquire for us, we've already got $1 million at least. We have no other funds coming to us. And there are no grant funds available that we've looked, me and Mike and Brandon and SEH have looked high and low. There's some loan funds through WIFIA and others that we'll be able to utilize, but that's a long-term commitment of cost, of basically raising that whole thing. And the time it's gonna take us will probably eat up the loss. We need a significant cash infusion into that project,
Because we have to flush our toilets.
yes.
What
And
what
the
did you
feds-
say, Jessica? I didn't-
We have to flush the toilets.
I mean, we had a visit today from Congressman Flood's office, and we specifically, Jonathan, myself, and the mayor brought this up. We said, we're trying to be the model community and do this correctly, to not send ourselves into, regulatory requirements, where we're just pumping bad water into the rivers and things like that. But it seems like the only people that are getting money are the people doing that stupid stuff. Where we've tried to be out ahead of this and design and do that, and the one thing that beat us over the head was when the price after COVID went. And the only thing we've asked from the legislature is the difference in that. That was the bill last year, was just help us cover our original cost, get us to where our original costs were in 2019 when we started this project. So, but we have to do our due diligence, that if nobody comes to save us, we have to be able to have sufficient revenues to pay the debt service, to pay that thing off. And then even if we build it, I would still advocate that we're gonna go fight and build programs and find money to offset our cost in perpetuity. We'll fight until we're done, basically, which means we're not here anymore. But we need to get it up front, so I think there's gonna be a big time push in the legislature this year, hopefully. If Senator Hughes is willing to do that again. But she was an incredible advocate. We had numerous economic development partners. The state chamber was in favor of our project. Basically, the ag mafia was in favor of our project and testified. Congressman Flood has been a huge advocate of this project, so we just keep gathering that support and getting ahead of it. Again, we were very late in that one last year. We basically jumped on board right when the session started and ran with it.
Do we need to include Perry in the future discussions?
Potentially, yes.
Is that in
So
the
they
budget?
wanna re-engage our
Is
lobbyists
that
as
in
well.
budget? We have that in budget?
I think you can fold that in under the same things we did, where we put it before.
Okay.
So, if you choose to engage with another lobbyist advocate on behalf of your bill, which was very helpful. A lot of the work was done to help move things and get that thing to the floor, so. That's what's going on with wastewater, council member.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments or anything you've heard on budgetary aspects? Like I said before, at a minimum, we'll have 2 more meetings. Likely the 19th or the second meeting in September will be our official meeting. Barring any change, if we don't have dramatic swings or unanswered questions moving into this. There we go. I got my marching orders.
Okay. Item 3 is consideration of approval to apply for the Land and Conservation Fund for the Plum Creek Turf Project. Welcome, Joel.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. As you may know, I am part of the Plum Creek Sports and Turf Committee.
I did not know that.
Usually, we just say, turf project. Part of my role on that committee, not only with being supportive and part of the meetings, is being a city liaison, to keep informed of making sure we're doing things right as far as the city concerned, relaying information, but also, a possible grant. As the city owns the land, owns the fields, and will continue to, we, as the city, would be the project sponsor. So the turf committee is doing fundraising through the Seward Youth and Community Club, and so that is the nonprofit that they're going through. The city is still the project sponsor. So there's a grant from the Land and Water Conservation Fund that we would apply for as a city that I have been working on a little bit. It's due September 6th. That can provide up to $600,000 for the project. That would be matched. So if 600,000 is raised, we can apply for 600,000. So I've been waiting to officially do it. I think last I heard, we are officially at around 500,000, but we expect to get to that 600,000. And so then I will be able to apply for that. And there's some rules with when we can start. There's some other things with the project. But basically I'm asking for official approval from from you to apply for that grant on behalf of the city. Again, the city is the project sponsor, no matter who is raising the funds, things like, the city is the project sponsor for the turf project.
Cause we own the land.
Yeah, we're not expending any city funds in this project, but
That
we
is
will be the conduit to get, cause we're the only ones that can get the grant.
Right.
We're probably due for one. We haven't gotten one in a long time. I think I've applied for one in 7 years. Was for Fairway Woods Wake Park. We were unsuccessful on that one. We've had some way in the past.
Was the pool one? I thought I saw something down there, a plaque that said.
It might have been, usually you'll find a plaque. Armory Park was a land water conservation, originally, not when we redid it. But you can see a plaque on the shelter down there and things like that. There's probably a few others that are floating around in the city, so I think we even have to provide a list and maybe a grant requirement, but we're a way out. The other thing is that Malcolm just recently did the exact same project. They turfed a baseball and a softball field, and they requested the full 600 and received the full 600 with their match. So it is a precedent that they fund baseball fields and turfing and doing these
Recreation
things.
areas
Yep.
that we fit directly into for this.
The other one that's discussed is this initial proposal, if this goes forward, is to do the infields of both the Legion Field and the East Softball Complex, the main softball field that's utilized by the high school. Maybe some peripheral elements of that, maybe the foul territories and such. If we decide or we receive a bigger gift or other funds come together, we've talked to the administrators of the grant and it's relatively feasible and easy to adjust ours. Again, it's not asking for any more money from them, but to adjust ours to say, hey, we're gonna do the whole field, which is a potential possibility. And so we were like, we don't wanna get stuck and then like, well, you're doing something bigger now, so that doesn't count. It's like, grants and federal grants have all these dumb technicalities, so we don't wanna find out that we can't do things that we wanna do, that we happen to trip into. And so, I had Joel contact the administrators and they said that's feasible, we could do that. So if you wanted to change it to, hey, you're gonna do the whole field, cause again, we're not getting, for an environmental review, we're gonna say it's the whole field. Where this is the area, it's the whole field, we own the whole field, we own the land the whole field's on. So, that's a feasibility too. So that if the project changes or we get additional gifts that are of significance, we will do the entire fields. And we've talked about this in the past, but we've met with Seward Public Schools and Concordia. They are in favor of the projects to move forward.
I'll make a motion to move forward with the grant, or the, whatever.
Application.
Yes, thank you.
Second.
A motion and a second, is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please register your votes. Please display the votes.
Voting in favor, Wilkin, Kaler, Tynes, Coulter, and Miller, strikes and voted 7-0.
Don't go anywhere.
Thank you. I'm not moving.
Don't be in the wellness center.
All right, thank you for all that could attend yesterday. It was good seeing everybody out there. We had several different waves going through and showing people around, so that was fun. I hope you enjoyed it. We'll definitely work to do that some more with some different people at the right time. But hopefully you saw the amount of progress that was going on. With different pictures, almost all of the framing and the metal studs are up, except for a couple small areas in front at the entryway. So, in all of those areas, drywall has started in some parts and will go up very quickly. And so that is just what we're working on in some of those areas, like the fitness area and the studio. Once the drywall gets up, those areas, and right now, they're over halfway done. And with punch list items, so they will go and finish very quickly. So much so that the exciting part is, I've been given the okay to kind of lock in when we can get some equipment delivered. And so, there's some confidence in that, and so those parts will get done much sooner than the pool. And so it'll be one of those things, we'll get them done, get excited, and then we still have to wait on the pool a month or two. But, good progress seeing all of that. So those areas, the fitness, the classrooms, drywall will be going up. That's kind of basically what's going on right now. In the fitness and studio, horizontal wall panels are going up. next week in the gym, the floor survey is still scheduled to happen on the 28th. That's when a company called H2I that's installing the floor will come in and inspect that everything meets the requirements of the level of the whole floor before they will even start doing anything. Samson feels very, very good that everything is meets the specs, but that survey still has to come in. If it wouldn't at any point, that's where they would have to bring in some more concrete or cut some out, but we do not expect that to happen at all. And then that will continue moving, then they'll start to mobilize in the next month or two to put down a couple different layers. The pool, hopefully you saw in pictures, there's significant progress with the framing of some of the walls and rebar, and the retaining walls will be shot soon with concrete. That's what the rebar is on that far end right now. And so that is currently happening. Once that is done in the pool area, they need to rock some areas, the base layer in the current channel, and then they'll start forming and putting in the rebar for those areas as well. And so that will continue. September 1st was a date that was significant. May not be exactly on September 1st, but early September when we'll start seeing some concrete shot in there. Some of the main areas, the boulevard will be finished basically when it dries out. There's some dirt work that was done on that end section, and when we get several days of dry weather, that will get done, and they are up around the building. The entryway and sidewalks are being poured, and then they'll move to the parking lot. So all of that is moving well. One thing we did last night was I shot a little video with SCCDP that will go up, and then we'll also use that as part of a marketing tool just to bring some awareness, and so people can see inside of that once that is used for the purpose that it's intended, and then we'll be able to use that. But it was good to have that going on in there. So that was one thing that happened yesterday. Financially, this is probably the first month that we needed to help Seward change the game out, cover some of the construction expenses, and we did have sufficient money available from the grant that we had received before and the half-cent sales tax revenue. So we had sufficient funds for that. And then, so we're kind of on a, just so you're aware, we're kind of on a month-to-month knowing, okay, are we gonna need to draw this month? We may be okay for another month, but we may have to start drawing on our construction loan in the next month or two, just so you're aware. But again, that's several months past when we first planned. So we're doing well, and Seward Change the Game still is due $2.5 million in a grant that people are being a little picky on a couple things. They're not releasing some money, but that is still due, and another grant. So we're still in really good shape there. But again, hopefully you all had enjoyed your time up there, and Jessica, we will work on getting that set up sometime for you,
Yeah.
so you can see it. And that time, and maybe we'll have to work on a different time, whatever works best for you.
I was sitting in an airport, unfortunately.
Late afternoon is good because the workers get there early and are getting done by about that 4 o'clock time. So, any questions from last night or anything else with this? Yep.
Just a comment, Joel, I think it looks great. I think
Thank you.
you and Jake Lahonick and is it Andrew, the field superintendent with Samson?
Yeah, Andrew Reynolds is
Yeah.
the site superintendent
Yeah, I
there.
think you guys have worked great together, it's coming along really well, great communication. Jake shared with me yesterday that they're already talking about acoustic panels to make it a little quieter in the
Yep.
pool area, and
Yes.
change order coming with no dollars.
that is
I've
correct.
never heard of that before in my life, so, but
They're-
I think we've really got the right construction guys.
They are doing tremendous work on that side of things.
Mhm.
In looking out for our best interest and the communication. Andrew is constantly, he's a bulldog up there. I wish he would have been there yesterday so you can meet him. He is a bulldog that keeps things going up there. If something, one area is slow, he moves other people to get going on something else. So, thank you for mentioning that.
No, Jake had mentioned also, he never worked with Andrew as the field superintendent. Andrew had done a lot of work in Omaha, lives in Wahoo, and he was just super impressed.
Yeah.
Really likes working with him, so
We are very much as well.
we got a great team.
And I think that'd be echoed by Dave, come with Concordia, who's on our building team, and then obviously Shane Bach as well. So, I'd also say Adam, with, BVH has been really, really good to work for in chasing down costs and coming up with options and solutions when we run into things, so.
We have a good team working on it.
Well thought out, very well thought out project.
Any other questions or comments? Not appreciate it, thank you, Joel.
Thanks, Joel.
City administrator's report.
Budget, I do budget stuff. There's other things in there, but I feel like it's budget a lot later. Continue to have discussions and working through NPPD and contract negotiations in preparation for that. On Friday last week, I went up to Norfolk and attended their annual wholesale customer meeting. They were talking about things all the way from rate increases that are potentially coming down the line, which they are, I will tell you. Due to generation, they need to create significant generation in the state of Nebraska, as all electric utilities across the nation, if you've been keeping track of that. That the governor's ag summit, right, Jonathan? Just to give you a perspective of what's going on in the state at the moment, they announced a new jet biofuel project in Phelps County that's coming. Remember, the city of Seward's approximately a 30 megawatt town. The NPP substation that feeds us in most of Seward County is approximately 52 megawatts of power coming out of that. The Phelps County jet fuel project is 1,000 megawatts for one project. I think we checked just yesterday when Ryan Hurst from Wahoo, Public Works Director over there, and I were on a meeting yesterday, and he checked in real time and he goes, the whole NPPD system, you can look at this online as a customer, is 1,800 at the moment, yesterday. So that's how significant of stuff they're playing in, and they need to create generation for. And we're just saying, hey, we're slightly concerned that we're socializing the costs a little bit to cover something that massive, which is just scary to even contemplate. It's almost like contemplating the size of the universe, because we're so small compared to that, and that's one economic project. So that's taken up quite a bit of time, getting involved in those, and I think that's only going to increase as you move into approximately December. They really want to push for getting contracts out in front of us by that point in time, and it's going to be fast and furious. Other than that, budget, wellness center, turf project, and then just kind of managing issues in relation to all the construction that's going on. Again, I want to thank Mike, Chief Peters, Bob Myers for meeting with residents along 7th Street and trying to work through issues and problems over there. We created an email chain list for them to go through and work through issues and give them weekly updates. We anticipate, our hope is, fingers crossed, by the end of September, a lot of those stormwater projects like Park Street and Bradford will be wrapped up. We anticipate come early October, I believe, or was it late September, you're gonna start seeing them shift to the new side of Highway 15 here soon. It's gonna go in a few parts, and they'll start further south, and then they'll get closer and closer to Park and Hillcrest as they do that. So that will be nice, one, because it's far wider than what you're trying to drive on. And I think it'll give some relief, at least to some neighbors, but it'll probably cause a problem for others. So it's half of one, half a dozen.
Right.
Thing.
On,
Yes.
on the Hillcrest water main underneath the highway, have they found any surprises there, or is it going as planned?
I don't know any surprises. Mike and Brandon are kind of monitoring that project. It's just kind of
It's
plucking
going
along.
better than they thought, so we've come up with a little better solution than not as extensive as we thought it would be, but so far so good.
Good.
There
to
is-
hear.
Definitely some concern though about the situation at Fifth and Hillcrest in regards to traffic, sightlines, school traffic. As I talked with Dr. Fields, I said the unfortunate part is until people settle down and start finding their routes, we're not even a full week into school yet. And so I think some of that will temper as people kind of figure out where they're going. I'd highly recommend anybody that's going to school and things like that, use Second Street. There is not a lot of traffic on Second Street. There's a ton of traffic on Fifth.
And I live on Fifth Street, I highly recommend using Second Street.
I,
I do, it's just ridiculous.
There's no parking on Second Street. You can literally traverse it, don't speed, but just go down Second Street. All the kids driving in from rural areas and stuff. I see them, I've driven down Fifth Street almost every morning of my life here, heading in after I drop kids off, and I go down Fifth Street from Hillcrest, whether it was from the CDC or otherwise. And, I constantly am just staring at high school kid after high school kid after high school kid. And I'm like, this is the worst street other than a street that doesn't go all the way through that you could possibly go down. And you're going down it right now when it's the worst it can be. Second Street is completely clear as can be. You'll be at school in seconds.
Well, I would say on Fifth Street, the one thing that might help is not parking the horizontal drilling trailer right by the intersection on Hillcrest.
They've,
So you can at least give them
they've-
some leeway
yeah, they've
to-
pulled that. I've checked that in the mornings now. And they've pulled that a lot. They were way down into the red and like right at
Right.
the corner of the curb.
Yeah.
And they've pulled it forward a lot further. But we continue to remind K2 that you got to have sightlines over there at a minimum. 'Cause you got high school traffic, and those kids,
Don't follow sightlines.
they're like, "Hey, look, that's close. I can just shoot through." It's like, no, you can't. Nope, that's not how this works. So.
Yeah.
So as we continue to have that, so that we don't have to do something more drastic like pulling parking or doing something else, we really have to continue to plead for people, and I'll talk to Dr. Fields again to ask that students try to utilize, and parents, utilize Second Street. Not that Derek's exactly about that, but
It's not that many people.
I'll be honest, I drove through the other day,
Just aren't.
I looked down Fifth Street in the evening, and there's a ton of traffic on Fifth Street in the evening, and then I got down to Second Street, and there was none as far as the eye can see. I was just like, people are not using it.
Yeah, every time I go on Second Street, I'm like, this is the way, this is how we're supposed to be going, right? There's all these signs that say Second
I
Street.
keep waiting for there to be like a big wave of people and it never happens, so,
I
I mean, it's fine with me, but.
And I told Greg before the meeting, the reason they're going down my street is because I give out free beer and tacos on my street.
My response was, I'm on my way.
Yeah,
But
I've gotta quit doing that.
What time, what time?
All the time.
Oh, okay.
So,
No, the only comments I get are from retired people that are home all day, because the people that go to their job like me, it's not bugging me where I work. I think I'll live through it.
You're
I'll-
gonna make it.
I did live through when we redid Highway 34 bridge and everybody went up East Seward Street, and that was just a disaster. So this is nothing in comparison.
Absolutely.
I lived through when they did paved Waverly. I go to my dad's, I couldn't, it took like 20 minutes to get there. I'm happy, I love it.
Any questions or comments with Greg's report? You good, Greg?
as good as I'm gonna get.
Good. Is your motion to accept?
Move to accept.
Second.
Motion and a second, please register your votes. Please display the votes.
Voting in favor, Wolken, Taylor, Tynan, Spokane, Miller, Streisand, Morgan, 7-0.
Any future requests for council agenda items or administrative action? Seeing none. Jonathan, welcome.
Thank you, Mayor.
What's going on in Seward?
Well, hopefully you all got a chance to see the good news about the city of Seward being named Community of the Year at the Governor's Ag and Economic Development Summit in partnership with Nebraska Diplomat. So I just want to congratulate all of you as community leaders for that tremendous honor. We appreciate the Independent for giving us a great shout out on the front page. We're hosting an upcoming professional development luncheon on Friday, August 30th. We're talking about Generation Z in the workplace. And so we would encourage you to participate, encourage others to join as well. And we have a tentative ribbon cutting scheduled for 6th Street Cafe on Friday, September 13th, at a time yet to be determined. That's all I have.
Thank
Mayor.
you, Jonathan. With that, is there a motion to adjourn? The motion and a second, to register your votes. Please display the vote.
Voting in favor, Wilkie, Taylor, Tanya, Colton, and Miller, Strickland, 7-0.
Thank you. Thank you all, have a great night.